Hi everyone and welcome to One Autistic Person. This is the 37th video in a 50 video series that I'm doing going through the statements of the autism quotient. The autism quotient is a pre-screening tool that is often used as part of the assessment process for autism. Anybody that's gone through that assessment will know that you have to look at things as a deficit. That's how autism is diagnosed, and I felt that we could have looked at things differently, and I started off these videos looking at things as a benefit rather than a deficit, and the questions kind of repeat themselves, so I've kind of, as time's gone on, moved on to looking at them as difference rather than deficits. I've kind of covered everything from a benefit perspective. I will still look at things from a benefit perspective as well. But what I've been looking at is how we're different, how our brains work differently, and what that might look like. So, and one of the big reasons why I wanted to do this was, one, so I could share my own personal lived experience, which is what this channel is generally about, but also other people can do that as well. So, if you want to share your experience of autism, then please subscribe, like, share, and comment on. Definitely comment on the video, so that you can share your experience with other people. That's what my ultimate goal is with this channel. So, the 37th statement of the autism quotient is, if there is an interruption, I can switch back to what I was doing very quickly. And for me, this is a definitely disagree, and was a major part of how I came to realise that I was autistic. I realised that other people seem to be able to transition quite easily between tasks. I've always been very clear on the fact that most people can't. It's rare that somebody can actually multitask, but people can appear to multitask. Whereas I needed to transition between things with a process to be able to do it, and if I was pulled out of it too soon, it could have a negative reaction to me. It can be made worse if you have a PDA profile, so if you have pathological demand avoidance, which basically means that you have a stronger reaction to not wanting to do something, or it isn't not wanting to, it's like your body just goes, I am not doing that, and you have an avoidance to demand and a physical reaction to it. And I feel that I fit very much within that profile. I can stop myself. My brain can stop me from doing something, even if I want to do it. So I'm going to cover this from a transitions perspective, with that in mind. And I'm kind of going to break this into what it feels like for me personally, what it can look like for others, and adjustments that I've put in place for this. So first of all, what I'm going to have a look at is what it feels like for me. So what it feels like for me when I'm pulled out of situations, when I am made to transition, or I have to transition into something, even if it is, and throughout this is coming from somebody who does have that PDA profile, so therefore I'm talking about it from that experience. So first of all, let's have a look at what it feels like for me. So for me, this has always been quite complicated to explain, because I think it is difficult to explain unless you have experienced it. And the only way I can really truly explain it is that it's both mental and physical at the same time. So I have a mental block to things, but I have a physical block to doing things as well. So it would be that I couldn't actually physically get up to do something, and my brain would just either go into thinking about anything but that, or what would feel like nothing but overthinking the fact that I needed to do that thing. So I'm not basically avoiding every possibility. My brain will go to avoiding every possibility, but I feel a physical pulling back of going, don't do that, don't. So if the laptop's near me, it'll actually, I will feel physically stopped from being able to open my laptop and do it. It can be completely, and that can make it completely debilitating, to the point of where if it's something that I need to actually get up and do, that I actually physically can't get up and do it, and getting up actually drains even more energy, and I feel fatigued, and I feel mentally fatigued and physically fatigued, and it feels like you just fall into this pit of not being able to do it, and then feel guilty about the fact you're not doing it, or frustrated at the fact, and then that adds to it. It's worse for me if I'm doing something that I have a special interest in, something that I'm highly focused on. So if I was playing The Sims, for instance, and then I knew I needed to come out of that, it would be worse if I was reading a book that I really enjoyed, or watching a TV show, or I was writing something, or I was researching something and needed to come out of it. It's much worse in those situations. But it can be pretty much anything. It can be that I just don't want, my brain just does not want me to get up and to go to the toilet, for instance. It's like my body goes, you need a wee, and my brain goes, no, it's not, you're not, to the point where I'm then desperate to go to the toilet. it can at times lead to meltdowns and aggression or shutdowns. So when I say aggression, it's not physically aggressive. It's just that I might be quite rude in my response to somebody if they ask me to do something. If I'm in the middle of something, then and interrupt me, I can be quite blunt and come across as my response is quite aggressive, or I can just completely shut down and not be able to communicate with the person at all. So it has a lot of effects on me personally, and it feels, like I say, very debilitating at times, and it's extremely frustrating for me, but I'm also sure that it's very frustrating for others. And this is what I'm going to look at next, which is what this looks like, or what it could look like from other people. And this is coming from my personal experience of having conversations with people about what does it look like when this is happening with me, who know that transitions are a problem for me. So let's have a look from my discussions with other people, what it may look like for other people. So the biggest thing that I think it can look like from the outside is either laziness or apathy, sort of like I'm not interested in doing this, I don't want to do it. And I suppose I use this term, and I've used it in this video a few times where I've said I don't want to, and it's not that I don't want to. I want to, but my brain just doesn't want me to do it, so I have to fight through doing it. Being obstructive or purposely trying to get out of things that are important to other people. It can also be important to your own life, but obviously you only know that. But if it's affecting another person, that person thinks you're not doing it because of them. And sometimes that can be more difficult for me. Sometimes knowing that it's for somebody else, if I don't see that it's truly needed, if my brain's like, well, it's not that important, and I don't consider it that important, that then makes it harder for my brain to jump over that hurdle. So I have to put things in place to make it so my brain gets to understand that. If a meltdown ensues, maybe worrying or upsetting for the other person. So if I come back with quite a rude response, or I go, oh, for goodness sake, and it could be upsetting for other people. It could look like you're being avoidant or like you are lying so you can get out of something. When I was younger, I used to get told all the time that I was lying. I used to say that I felt ill. So I was lying, but I did feel ill. This is the thing. I did feel ill. My body, the effects that my body are having now, I could have, as a child, seen that as illness. You know, that I'm feeling this feeling of being pulled back, and it can make me feel nauseous when I'm pushing through it now, and it probably did a lot when I was a kid. And I didn't feel I was lying when I was saying it, and I think probably I wasn't, but I was always told that basically I couldn't be, I couldn't have been telling the truth all the time, that I wasn't able to do it, and I was feeling ill all the time. And it can also just be seen as plain strange that you don't want to do things, especially when the other person knows you enjoy doing that thing. It can be very complicated, and this is where I've sort of spoke about spiky profiles previously, where we can do things sometimes and can't do it at others. And I think that can be very confusing to somebody, because most people, when they want to do something they enjoy, they are automatically able to do it. But especially if you've got pathological demand avoidance, but this can be for various other reasons as well. It could be because of social situations. It could be because of the fact you're just not feeling up to it. There's sensory issues at the moment. Whatever it is, there could be a lot of issues that are happening with you to make it so that isn't going to happen. And that's a really good point to make, is that there are so many things for an autistic person that could affect the way you feel generally, that can add to anything that you're already feeling around the transition side of things. So from others' perspective, you're changing what you like and what you don't like, or what you want to do and what you don't want to do. But in fact, it's just that at that point you can't do it. And once people around you know about that, it does become much easier. But you have to understand where it sits with you as well. So what I'm going to do now is have a look at some adjustments that I've put in place for myself, and these seem to be working for me. A lot of these I actually put in place without even realising it, and were there prior to my diagnosis, but I've definitely now expanded on them a little bit more, and I understand a little bit more about what is making me be able to transition a bit easier with them, so I'd like to share those with you. Like with anything on this channel, and like anything that when somebody who is one autistic person talking about something, these things help me. It doesn't mean they will help you, but it could be helpful to know that these are things that I do, because it might be able to get you to see that this is something I enjoy doing, and that might allow me to be able to get through this. So let's have a look at some of the adjustments that I put in place for myself to get myself through transitions. So for me, the adjustments that I put in place are around finding something to aid transitions, something that will break the pattern you're in, but give yourself some leeway if you can. So some of the things that I do, so when I say give yourself some leeway, is don't just make it really time restrained. I think that's another thing you really shouldn't do, is don't put yourself in a time restrained situation if you can. Obviously there are times when you need to put yourself in a time restrained situation, but if there's a natural time to what you're doing, that's much better than knowing that time it needs to be put onto it. So I watch a specific YouTuber who does science videos. It's quite basic stuff, so it's stuff that I generally know, but if I want to do something that I know is going to include thought and me having to put myself forward in a confident way, I watch one of this YouTuber's videos. So it does stuff on space, it does stuff on different all different scientific projects that he does, and it, like I say, I know most of what that is, so it puts me in this sort of confident headspace of knowing that I'm going into it feeling more confident. And those videos are sort of like between 15, 20 to 25 minutes. So I know I've kind of got half an hour without even thinking about the fact of it. All I'm thinking about is I'm going to put that YouTube video on, and I'll put it on at least half an hour before I have to do this thing that I'm going to do. And it naturally transitions into me feeling much better about it. And I found that really helps because I put myself in a headspace. I found with a lot of these, that is what it was doing without even realizing it, that I have put myself in a different mindset to where I was previously. So another one is feeding my cat. If I feed my cat and I have to do something for somebody else and my brain isn't feeling that it wants to, and it's stopping me from doing it, for some reason, doing something for my cat puts me in a headspace of doing something for somebody else, and then for some reason my brain will then want to go and help other people. So it means that if I'm doing that thing for somebody else and it's not something that I've got that automatic urge to do, and my brain's not seeing it as important, I can switch that by breaking the cycle from my cat, who's not a human, but I'm helping him. He's reliant on me, so therefore I've got to feed him. And if I do that, then that puts me in a headspace of wanting to help. That's the only thing that I can think of, but it seems to work. And I was doing it, I think before that's what I was doing, but now I'm aware of the fact that that's the case. If I'm going to do something for myself, but that's fun and I'm struggling with it, I will tell myself I can read one chapter of my book. Now I read, I kind of read a cycle of books. I'll read them like 4 or 5 times and then move on to the next. So I'm currently reading the Wicked series. I'm going through a Wicked series reading. So I'll allow myself to read one chapter. But what I end up doing is usually ending up reading 2 or 3 chapters, and that can take anything from 20 to 30 minutes. So again, I've got that 20 to 30 minutes without thinking about the fact it's 20 to 30 minutes. It might take me 35 if it's a big chapter. It might take me 40 even if it's a bigger chapter. So it's not actually giving myself a time scale, but I am kind of like, I've got to give myself this time some way, but without time watching. And then the final one for me is how I get out of the house. And this has been something that's been a big struggle for me, and actually has been something that I've done recently. I have 3 songs that I listen to on a playlist when I'm out, which they're 2 Enya songs, a Kate Bush song. How I listen to them is the one Enya song. So it's Orinoco Flow, Only Time, Running Up That Hill. And then I listen to Only Time, and then I listen to Orinoco Flow. And that's how it works. If I listen to one cycle of those songs, then I can usually get myself out of the house. I may need to listen to it 2 or 3 times to be able to do it, but I have to listen to full cycles of it. And then I listen to them when I'm out as well. So it's obviously transitioning my brain into being, you'll be okay, you'll be okay, you'll be okay. And it's sort of bringing my senses down and making me feel much more at ease. Plan when you can is really important when it comes to trying to put these transitions in place. Give yourself more time than you need, but don't think about the time, if that makes sense. So if you know you need to do something in an hour, kind of know that it's going to be below that, but don't time the thing you're doing. I would say, if that's possible, don't do it so that it's thinking about it from a time. With me, it's that, like the Enya songs, there is obviously a time that if I listen to all 5 tracks of the playlist, then there is a time that's done, and I can kind of pick up where it should be, but I'm not actually timing myself, because putting time puts pressure, which then makes the transition feel even harder in my view. So they're just some of my adjustments, and like I say, they're mine, but hopefully that can sort of open up people's thought process of where they might be able to go with it. And like I say, I think it's about putting myself in a different mindset. For me personally, that seems to work. So if it's helpful for anybody else, then that would be fantastic. What this has made me think about even more so, I already kind of saw this before, but there's a lot of crossover between autism and OCD, so obsessive compulsive disorder. routine being the major one. That with autistic people, we like that feeling of routine, and it's actually the soundtrack bit that I was listening to, the bit where I was saying about the playlist, that made me realize that's quite an OCD trait. And I just want to point out that there's very clear OCD traits that within autism generally. The need for sameness. It's different, you know, but it's often also a comorbid condition, and it could be worth getting it checked out if you do feel like these things are controlling your life in a pervasive way. It's not pervasive necessarily for me, because I don't need to do it all the time, and it's only when I'm feeling in that headspace, but it definitely feels like it would fall within an OCD thought process. So I just wanted to point out the fact that may be a comorbid condition, or it may be just that you have traits that are similar to people who have OCD, but it could be worth looking into how to manage OCD traits as a method of being able to get through any transitional issues that you might be having. So just going to have one final little thing that I'm going to say. It's a few bits, but it's just my sort of final words, I suppose. Be kind to yourself. If you can't transition and don't need to do it right then, try it again later. Don't force yourself through it if you don't have to. There are many times when you are going to have to force yourself through transitional periods, and you don't want to do it when it's not something you have to do and you're not in a headspace to do it, because it might be so draining on you that you then can't do it when you do need to do it later. Don't beat yourself up if you can't and don't do it. You couldn't and didn't. It's done. Once you've not done it, you've not done it. Try to forget about the fact you did it. I feel guilty all the time for not being able to transition into doing something, but don't beat yourself up over it, because you can't change it. It's done. It's gone past. Be honest with the people around you if you can be, and explain the situation. Explain it to them. Maybe get them to have a look at monotropism and understand why this happens to us, because of the fact we're so focused on something and so hyper focused on it that everything else around it seems like it's completely going into a completely different state of mind. And sort of trying to explain that and explaining monotropism might help. And that's where I think it is in itself, not the fact that we can't transition, but the reason why we struggle to transition is actually a strength in itself, because we're often hyper focusing on something that's got all of our attention, therefore are doing it really well and getting a lot from it. So actually the reason why it happens is a positive. It's a strength that we have, but unfortunately because of the fact that the world moves so quickly, that it's sometimes that you have to transition out of things quicker than you would like to. But the actual cause of it for me is a strength, because I love the fact that I'm monotropic. I think it really benefits me in a lot of ways, but it does have these sort of added effects like struggling with transition that can sometimes be negative overall. And can have negative impacts on us, and then that's about us trying to find ways through and trying to find ways of managing that and making it a more positive experience for us. So that's this video done. Thank you very much, as always. I hope to see you on the next video. As always, comments are always the most important part of of this process that I've put in place on this channel. I want people to tell each other's experience, to discuss that with each other. I try to comment back as much as I possibly can. Sometimes, because of the fact I struggle with transitions, can take a few days for that to be the case, but I do try my best to do it. Obviously, if you could subscribe and share and like the video, all of those things are really helpful for the algorithm, so that I'm able to get to more people. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.